What is the worst first date you've ever been on? Hey guys, it's Melanie, and in this video, some women are gonna share their story about their worst first dates.
First date horror stories.
I went on a date. This guy asked me out on a date maybe 20 times. Finally, I was like, sure. We literally get probably one of every appetizer, and then we each get an entree, maybe a third entree just to try it out. And then he's like, it's time for dessert. Let's pick. I'm like, honestly, I am so stuffed. I've never been more full. I am good.
Yeah.
He's like, no. Let's get the dessert.
It's like, eat it.
I'm like, okay. And then he gets a fucking phone call. He does not come back 20 minutes. And I'm like, I don't know what the phone call's about. So I get up and I go outside, quite literally gone. I have not seen or heard from that man since. He's blocked me on every social media. The bill was literally probably $1,600.
So, did you pay it?
Yes, I had to pay it.
What's his name?
His name is Justin.
What's his last name?
Nick's already pulling out his phone.
What I'll say about situations like this is that sometimes if a guy asks you out multiple times over and over, he's insisting that you go on a date with him, but you keep turning him down. He will take you on a date and embarrass you or do something like this to you just to prove a point. Just to show you that, yeah, you weren't that special after all. He did this to her just to hurt her feelings because she was telling him no all along. He had to settle the score. If you really are not into the guy, don't say yes to the date. It's no. The answer is no. And if she had followed her heart and had continued saying no, she would not have ended up on this date where she ended up paying a $1,600 bill. First of all, why would you even let the bill get so high, even if you thought he was going to pay the bill? That's $1,600. That wasn't just, oh, I'm just going to get one of every appetizer. That's greed. That is something else. You got to watch out for guys like this.
Online dating horror story. I get a little notification that somebody has sent me a DM. So I click it, check it out. Pretty good looking guy. So I respond back and we start talking, doing the howdy doos and the what do you do for a living? What do you like to do for fun? Oh my gosh, hiking, camping, I love horseback riding. You know, all the lies you tell people when you're online dating. He was like, oh yeah, man, that's awesome. Cool. Hey, I got a question for you. Could I buy your socks off of you? I beg your pardon, sir. He was like, can I buy your socks? I said, what you want my socks for? He's like, I just kind of got a thing for feet, and I just was kind of wondering if maybe you'd be interested in selling me your socks. And immediately a little light bulb went off, and I said, sell you my socks? Now listen, I'm a businesswoman. I'm never one to turn down an opportunity. So I said, sure, $200. And he was like, oh man, awesome. Done. Are you serious? Are you about to buy my socks for $200? And then he was like, oh, and by the way, could you maybe wear them for a week and not wash them? And especially he said, go work out in them, get them as sweaty as you can, and then just let them dry out. And right there, I was like, whoa, no, whoa. I don't work out. Selling you my socks is one thing, but if you think I'm going to break a sweat for you, keep marching.
What has been the most ridiculous fetish that a guy has ever told you that he's into on or before your first date? Share it in the comments.
This one is for all the people who simply say I was just lucky to have found my husband online dating when and how I did. But remember, I was single for 20 years before I met my husband, and I went on some terrible dates during that time. This is my worst date ever. Picture it, New York City. I have been on maybe 2 or 3 dates at this point with this guy. And, after we go out to dinner, he says, hey, do you want to come back to my place and have a drink before you head home? He lived in Manhattan. I lived in Brooklyn. So I accept the invitation to his home. The minute I walked in and I saw the kitchen sink piled high with dishes, so many dishes that it spilled out over onto the stove that was adjacent, I should have known then I was in trouble. I should have known then. So sit down on the couch, trying not to be judgmental, trying to be open-minded. And he was like, oh, I'm going to get the wine. And I was like, you know what? Actually, do you have any plastic cups? I don't want to dirty any of your glasses. And, you'll have to wash it when I'm gone. He was like, oh yeah, I have plastic cups. Thank goodness, because I didn't even trust the cups in his house. And where was he going to put them when we were done with them? There was no room in the sink. So, have a glass of 2 of wine. And then I'm like, oh wait, Gotta pee, right? You drink, you gotta pee eventually. So I go in his bathroom and I open the toilet. It's the filthiest, dirtiest, nastiest toilet you have ever seen in your entire life. I'm talking black crud everywhere, brown streaks just dripping from the rim of the toilet all the way down, just like it is filthy. But now what do? Because I have to leave. I have to go home. I'm getting out of here. I'm hailing a taxi and I'm taking myself back to Brooklyn. But there's no way I'm going to make it back to Brooklyn with my bladder this full. How am I going to go to the bathroom? Open up the cabinet underneath his sink. I see a toilet brush. I see some toilet cleaner. I put the toilet cleaner in the toilet and I start scrubbing that toilet for my life. So this way I can actually use a clean toilet, relieve myself, and get the heck out of here and go back to Brooklyn. He's knocking on the door like, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. He was like, can I come in? Come in. He was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm cleaning your toilet. It's filthy. And he was like, but look, I had all the supplies to clean it. But when was the last time you cleaned it? You mean to tell me every morning you get up and you relieve yourself and you hang your private parts over this? Over this? I'm going home. I left there after I relieved myself, held a taxi, went back to Brooklyn, and I never spoke to him again. Never spoke to him again. You guys tell me how lucky I am when these were the kind of dates I was going on. I did the work. But this is a safe space, so please share your worst date stories. I can't wait to hear them. Let's have a good laugh.
So there are a couple of things here. Number one, I'm not going to your house on a date. Going to your house is not a date. When did that become a thing? So number one, I'm not going to your house. Number two, I'm not eating from you. I'm not drinking from you if your kitchen is a mess. And number three, I would probably go pee outside because a dirty toilet is like the worst thing ever. I would go pee outside. It's nighttime. And there has been this whole conversation about men talking about if she comes over to my house and it's dirty and she doesn't start cleaning, then she's not the one. And I just want to know, who raised y'all? Who raised these men to think that if you invite a woman over to your house, this is someone you just started dating? Even if she's your girlfriend and you don't live together, if she comes over to your house and she's not cleaning your house, she's not the one for you? Like, weren't you born with two hands? Did you leave your hands in your mother's womb?
I'm not going to say where the story's from, but let's just say it's from a mutual family friend. So my friend started going to the gym at all odd hours, and suddenly one day she noticed that there was this older gentleman who was somehow always there as well. So one day he decided to spit some game at her, and they ended up going on a date. She knew that he was older, but she didn't know that he was like 60 years old. But she kept emphasizing how his skin looked so nice, how he looked so young. And she was very attracted to him. You know, he kept up with himself. And after a month, they've been talking consistently, seeing each other at the gym. Things are going pretty well. So it's the third date, and you know, things are getting a little hot and heavy. And he starts insisting on going over to her house. But it's giving her a little bit of pause. It's only a month, and he's already trying to solidify a relationship and lock her down. She knows that he has, you know, a 91-year-old mother who lives with him. She thinks maybe he just doesn't want to disturb her, but she still's like, no, let's go over to your place. He finally buckles, and they end up going to his place because he really wants to get some. And when they arrive, she finds this dilapidated house with like a rusted out Cadillac in the front yard. At this point, she knows that she should probably turn around, but she ends up going into the house. And it turns out that there are several people that are living in the house. There's somebody who's making some food on the stove. And it's clear that his 91-year-old mother does not live with him. He lives with her. He doesn't mind that there's several other people in the house. He literally starts to try to get in her pants in the middle of the living room, like not even in the bedroom. And she realized it's most likely because that's where he sleeps, on the couch. She says absolutely not, leaves, and blocks in. But it was super clear that this old man was trying to get with her so he could have a place to stay. He was insistent on trying to hook up because that was really all that he had to offer. She was like, I guess the saying's true. Men that age are just looking for a nurse or a purse. Keep your apartment and your cash safe, ladies.
This is an example of what we call hobosexual, where the man gets with the woman so that he has a place to stay because the woman has that kind of stuff for herself. She has an apartment, she has a house, she has a car, He might not have those things, so he gets with her so that he can get to use her resources. And ladies, follow your intuition. If you feel like don't go into his place, I probably shouldn't be on this date, just turn around. Just, politely just say, you know what, this, I don't really feel good. I would like to go home. What is he gonna do? What is he gonna do? Force you into his house? And I'll say again, stop going to people's houses for dates. That's not a date. Don't go to these men's houses.
Dating horror stories, and boy, do I have a good one for you. Met a guy on Bumble, and we went to a sports bar in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Hit it off really well, so we went back to his place just to keep the vibe going, keep hanging out. He got a phone call from his brother, so he answered it, and he walked into the other room and was talking about x-rays and all this other stuff, and I'm like, so he comes back into the room and is like, so I have really bad news, and goes on this whole story telling me about how his brother has testicular cancer, had to have one of his testicles removed already, had a spot on one of his lungs that he had chemo for and had removed, and they found another spot on his other lung, and he needs to go to the cancer doctor in Fort Wayne tomorrow. So I was like, oh my gosh, let me leave. Do you need anything? I'm out of here so you can get going to your brother. I'm so sorry for your brother. I really hope everything goes okay and that he's okay. So I go home. I don't text him or anything because he is concerned about his brother.
Right.
And the next morning I'm on Bumble and realize that it says that he had unmatched me. And I was like, he did not lie. He did not make up this whole story about his brother having cancer. So I texted him and said, you didn't need to lie. You could have said that you weren't interested. So he said, yeah, I'm not interested. I didn't really know what to say. Sorry. And I was like, what? So, ladies. So, don't trust them, girls. Don't trust these boys out here. Stay single.
This has got to be the most immature thing I have ever heard. This is actually not a man. This is not a grown man. This is a grown boy. He's a grown boy. How are you not able to say, this isn't working out for me? And to tell a lie on your brother. I hope he doesn't actually have a brother. I hope he's making up that he has a brother to tell a lie on his brother that he has cancer. Because can you imagine you go on a date and your date is telling a lie on their real sibling that their real sibling has cancer just to get out of the date with you? Oh, that's crazy.
There is something so annoying about going on a date with someone and having them drop some crazy information 25 minutes in. So last summer I went out with this guy, first date, to this Italian spot. We got a glass of wine. He seemed interesting. This guy was fun to talk to, but he was there was just something a little odd about him. He just seemed very frenetic, which was confusing. And then probably 25 minutes in to the date, he's like, when was your last relationship? I'm like, okay, we're doing this now. And I'd gotten out of a relationship maybe 2 months prior. So I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty recently single. I just went through a breakup 2 months ago, just kind of getting back out there. And he laughs. I'm like, why is he laughing? And he says, oh, you think 2 months is recently single? And I'm like, I think that's very recently single. And he says, oh. And I say, how recently single are you? Assuming that you're recently single based on your reaction. And he says, I've been single for about 48 hours. He's like, yeah, I went through a really bad breakup on Sunday. And it was Tuesday. I'm like, you mean this past Sunday? He's like, yeah, 48 hours ago. And when I was like, okay, well, I don't think we're looking for the same thing. He was like, what do you mean? I'm totally over it. And I was like, well, how long were you together? And he's like, I don't know, 10 months. I was like, yeah, okay, I don't know if I have to be the one to tell you this, but you're not totally over it, probably. Gotta go. But I was like, man, couldn't you have just dropped that information, before we met, so I could have not gone on this date? Thanks. But yeah, anytime someone drops major info like that on a first date, so annoying, because you're like, well, I'm already sitting here now. Couldn't you have told me this before the date?
So I think in a situation like this, he's either trying to make his ex/girlfriend jealous, or he's looking for a quick rebound. And either of the two, you really just don't want to be in that situation at all. Share your worst first date stories in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video.